LegalMatch has given us a nice return on our investment. We took a plan that was 30 months, and we were getting as much as 6-to-1 return on our investment, which is, I think, more than fair. In fact, I think it's exceptionally good. It has slowed down a little bit, and these kinds of times, any kind of practice, there's ebbs and flows to it, but it's given us the ability to access clients we might not otherwise have represented and help them out, which we do on an everyday basis. We've set it up in a way, based upon our cost, if we get one client a month, we're maybe as much as tripling our investment, getting a 3-to-1 return on the investment, but with the understanding we don't make a big hit on every case that we sign up. But it's easy to make a return on the investment and then make a profit on the investment in a very short period of time with a very few actual clients that are signing up. Well, obviously it's a profit-based, profit center for us, and it's also because it's given us the opportunity to sign up a bunch of clients that we would not have otherwise had the opportunity to get. It's also allowed us to expand our practice because some of those clients have referred other clients to us. So I look at that as the best effect that it's had on the firm. But of course, I always enjoy talking to clients and potential clients, finding out what their story is, seeing if there's a way that we can help them in that. To help them, we look at our practice a little bit differently than a lot of other firms do. My first goal is to help my clients. I believe that the money is the reward for doing the job well, not the goal of doing the job. And so when you get the satisfaction of doing the job well and you get paid for it, well, that's a good thing. It fits right in with the protocol that we have for the pandemic because most of the contact, at least initially with the clients, is remote. So we're either calling them or we're Zooming with them, emailing exchanges. So it meshes right in with that kind of requirement under the pandemic. So it really just transitioned very well into our existing practice and the way we were doing it as a result of the pandemic. Normally, I would have been trying to see more clients in person, but LegalMatch is very compatible with a more of a remote practice, which we have to do anyway at this point. Well, the features, obviously, I like the way the site communicates with us, how often we're getting leads from them, the opportunity to weed out people who really can't be of help to. I like the fact that it gives an income range so we can have some kind of expectation in terms of what we can charge the potential clients. One of the things, I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the things that I think is good about LegalMatch is that it's a source for the potential clients who can't afford somebody who's going to charge them an arm and a leg for representation, who has the $80,000 car and the $7,000 a month office. We work on a much smaller scale, which allows us to be profitable, notwithstanding the fact that we're charging these individuals less money. But even then, still, we have to be able to determine what is a reasonable and fair fee for these clients, and the fact that we have some idea of not only what the charges are, but what the income range is, so we can have some kind of expectations in terms of what they can afford. The feedback has been the fact that the site has the opportunity for feedback, the fact that people can leave reviews. If anything that I need, I've been obviously offered any kind of support that I've needed from LegalMatch to help build this. Kind of jumped into this without going through the training on it, but I find it to be very user-friendly in that I can go straight to the lead. I can make some determinations. I can communicate with my partner, who is a former Philadelphia district attorney, or I should say assistant district attorney, and we get the opportunity to monitor how well we're doing by identifying how many people that we've reached out to, how many people have communicated with us, and how many people we've actually signed up. One time there was a problem with one client, and I got a call from somebody at LegalMatch trying to determine what had actually happened and trying to figure out the best way to resolve what the issue was. It was a very minor issue, miscommunication. But I appreciated the fact that somebody followed up with me to figure out the best way to resolve whatever the issue was. And in today's world, where people do leave reviews, where people can leave negative remarks on social media and whatnot, having that support to resolve problems or potential problems with clients, I think is very important. I get contacted by LegalMatch on a regular basis for all kinds of support and follow up with regard to the clientele. So I'm very pleased with the results that we've had. I would say multiple times a day. Obviously there are ebbs and flows, but I would have to say on average at least once a day. So, and that includes nights and weekends. I wake up sometimes and I've gotten a lead in the middle of the night. I get leads on the weekends. So, and since I don't sleep that much, I actually respond to some of those leads in the middle of the night or first thing the next morning, and I do get them on the weekend. So it is essentially a 24/7 service. Sometimes, a lot of times, there are clients or potential clients who contact us. There's nothing we can do for them, or it's something that there's just nothing we can do. They're not criminal cases and they're looking for something, more or less looking for advice sometimes. And we communicate with those people. I think I'm providing a service to them even if I'm not signing them up as a client. Some clients just don't have any money. And I'm as altruistic as the next person is. I do have a firm to run, so even though we can charge less of a fee than some other people do, we can't give our services away unless it's a very, very unusual, specific set of circumstances. But I'm going to say that we probably, of the people who have money, well, I shouldn't say that. Of the leads we get, we probably convert about 25% of them into clients. But that's including those people who I said don't have any money and we can't represent them, or the people who are just looking for some free advice. So of the viable cases, viable leads we get, I'm going to say probably we get about 50% of the time. I haven't used any other services, although 30-something years ago, I did use the lawyer referral service from Philadelphia. And it's not that dissimilar, except that the quality of the clients do tend to be a little higher than the ones who call lawyer referral service. But again, that was 30 plus years ago. But a lot of the people, and this is something anybody has to understand about people who go to LegalMatch. In today's world, I'm going to say that everybody knows a lawyer. Everybody has access to lawyers. Everybody has, on Facebook, you get inundated with lawyers. You get inundated with ads for lawyers on TV, although rarely are they for criminal cases. The people who go to LegalMatch are people who have no place else to turn. That's why when you see the people who are submitting their claims to LegalMatch, you're going to see a lot of people who are from a lower socioeconomic background. People who are making $100,000 a year, they may go to LegalMatch, but they have other avenues. The people who go to LegalMatch, they don't know anybody, they need help, and this is no criticism either of LegalMatch or the clients, but they're just not, most of them are not in a position to pay a ton of money for an attorney. So you have to be able and willing to work with people either with payment plans or with lowered fees or whatever. And sometimes you get beat and sometimes you don't. But these are people who really need your help. I should say they really need our help. And we try to do the best that we can to help them in a way that suits both of us. I will never take somebody's last dollar, and I will always be willing to work with people in terms of paying for our services over time if it's feasible. But a lot of these people are well off enough not to qualify for legal aid or a public defender, but they also can't afford to spend $15,000 on a preliminary hearing because they hired because that's what some attorneys might command. I don't even know if they $10,000 for a preliminary hearing. We'd be willing to do that same service for $2,500 or $3,000 because we recognize what the limits are of those clients. It's good for our cash flow. It's good for getting business, for getting clients, potential clients, getting our name out there. Being seen in court is often a way to additional business. We're getting referrals from the clients that we get from LegalMatch. Always trial work, as much as it can be the same from case to case, and it differs from case to case. Every time you have a case, it gives you the opportunity to spread your wings and expand your influence. It gives us the ability, the emotional satisfaction of helping clients. So all things being said, I can't say that there's one thing that's the best. I don't know for those people who remember the movie Jerry Maguire, but the athlete in Jerry Maguire, when he was asking for what he wanted, or what he was stating what he wanted, was he didn't just want the coin, meaning the money, he wanted the quan. And the quan was the whole package. It was the respect, it was the money, it was the fame, it was all those things. I kind of look at LegalMatch in the same kind of concept. It's not any one thing that is a tremendous benefit so much as it is the quan. It's the overall experience that you have in terms of the positive influence it has on your firm, both from a monetary basis and an emotional satisfaction basis and a respect basis, and all these other things that come together as one singular experience. I would say that you have to be flexible, you have to be patient, and you have to listen carefully, posts carefully, and tailor your response to the best that you can to the post itself. When I'm responding, I believe that a personal, much more personal note that is a little bit more heartfelt gets a better reaction from the potential clients. Now, other people may find it to be very useful. As somebody who I said earlier has the gift of gab, I'm much more likely to want to use my own material. I would say that do have to understand that there are going to be emotional experiences with some of these people is going to run the gamut in terms of what they put you through. Sometimes you also have to have the emotional intelligence to turn a client down. If I could give any advice to younger attorneys, it would be two things. Don't do anything just for the money, and to a headache client or a difficult client is usually not worth the object that they put you through. So it's not just that the clients or potential clients are screening you. You should be screening them as well for what fits best within your personality and what's within your practice. I mentioned earlier that there was one telephone call that there had been one complaint that somebody had called about something I had done, and I'd spoken to my account manager who talked it through. This was a difficult client that I knew was going to be difficult from the moment I spoke to her the first time, and really, it was against my better judgment to have taken on anything with her. And it was not anything that was major. It was not a true representation so much as what she wanted me to draft something for her. And I should have done a better job listening to my own inner voice, because I knew from the very first moment I spoke to her that she was going to be an issue. And then, of course, she was. I would say look past the price. With all due respect, I've seen other services that are offered for less money, but that doesn't mean they're a better value. So what you want to do is really look at the question of whether you're getting a value for your investment. And of course, don't take on more than you can chew. I'm at a point where the membership fees that I have on a monthly basis are something that is not an issue. But if you're just starting out, you really have to examine the value, because for some people it's going to be an expensive investment, but since it's worth it, if you can do it, do it. But don't get yourself into a contract that you can't comply with. But again, it's not about cost, it's about value. And I would say, because of the fact that it pays for itself time and time again, it's well worth it, but you do have to work it. I mean, you can't just ignore the leads, because if you ignore the leads, you're not going to get any work. So you have to be committed from both a financial and from a time factor. And either you or somebody in your office has to respond to those as quickly as possible, because if you don't get it, somebody else will.